All right, so that was step 1 and step 2, notional space box, envelope. Remember, make sure that you're touching the edges. Now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to find the important points. So we need to know, if we just started drawing here, we might start drawing the head here, kind of like the helmet up here, you know, the shoulders here, and then come down, and it would be confusing because then that head, it's too short. So we don't just sort of start drawing. We find the kind of the important points. On this particular image, your important points are going to be sort of the top of the shoulders here. So I'm going to actually just take a line, and you can do this with your ruler or just going across, and I can make a line to the edge and I can find another point that way. Or I can find this point in space by measuring from here and from here. So if you think back to the very beginning of the quarter when we did those measurement boxes, that's what that was for. The third option is you can take your straight edge or your T-square and run across, and you don't want to just run the whole line, but kind of go across, go across, go across, and find the edge of that shoulder, which is going to be right about here. So those are the 3 main ways that you can find the measurements. But basically, you want to know how far from the top or bottom it is, okay? What is it on the y-axis? And then how far it is from the edges on every interior point. That needs to go in a little bit more. And I usually double check with multiple ways of measuring when I'm looking to be exact. I'll do it one way and then I check it with another. So I'm going to find that other shoulder here by running my T-square across. One thing you have to be careful of is if you're using a ruler instead of a T-square, that you don't want it to accidentally kind of, you know, drift so that you're running across and then you end up with kind of a diagonal. That happens all the time. So if you use a ruler to go across, use it like a T-square. In other words, find a straight edge, which is this. Line up the end of it here as flush as you can, and then run it across. And make sure that it's not kind of wiggling or wobbling there. And then that will work essentially just the same as a T-square does. All right, so now I know where his shoulders are. The next thing I want to find, see, then I can, now because I have my envelope lines, I can measure against my envelope lines here to find out where that shoulder goes widthwise. So I measured from the envelope line, makes it a little easier, rather than from the notional space box there. But because I've measured my envelope lines, I know they're accurate, I can do that. So now I have sort of this development of that curve of that shoulder. So what I want you to do is to just start kind of finding those important points. So on this one, you've got shoulder, shoulder. I would say that this here, right underneath this arm, is a very important point. This underneath here is going to be an important point. The waist, top of the arm here, top of the hand here, finding that center line. So I'm just going to go through and find all of those, and you can, you know, it might be just speed up the video during that if you want to. So I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to find the center of the helmet from the notional space. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to draw that down, but it's at an angle, so I'm going to make sure that I have that angle. It's a very, very slight angle. Now I'm going to find the bottom of the helmet. I'm going to use the T-square for that this time. Kind of coming across, that's where the helmet ends. Then I can, essentially I can use this point that I've already found to kind of get that angle because I know that it doesn't come all the way quite out there. But at this point, I'm just sort of roughing in those shapes. So 1, 1, 2, 2. I'm going to find the edge from, actually, you know what, I'm going to go all the way out to the notional space box this time. The edge of the helmet. Check, double check. Good. Good. But then I know that it hits this edge of this envelope right here. So I'm going to find that point real quick so that I can get that angle correct. So it hits it right here. And I can just, bam, put a straight line there. No problem. And this one, I want to check and see if it's sort of straight. This one is slightly, well, no, it's almost slightly higher, but not by much, really. And I can see that it curves in here, so I'm just going to go ahead and put that curve in there. All right, so now I already have the basic shape of the helmet. Finding where that center line goes here because it curves. And then that's going to indicate this angle and that angle. All right, helmet, good. Shoulder curve. Now let's find the top of this gauntlet here, this point right here, coming across using the T-square, and it's right here. Then let's find it coming in from the envelope line so that we can see where that's coming in at, get that angle correct. Then this comes out, and let's see, I'm just looking at this negative space right here that's made by the envelope line, the notional space box, and it makes kind of a diamond. And I'm just going to kind of rough it in. I'm not going to really worry about huge accuracy there at this point because it's a little space. I'm not overly worried about it, but I just want it to be there. All right, and then I see that I've got a connecting angle from the helmet to the shoulder line, and I'm just going to rough that in as well. So I just put in those little details, not with like major measuring points, but just sort of to get a feel for the overall shape. So then here I've got this line across is right here. That's the same thing. And I'm going to look at this triangle, this negative space right here, and I'm going to try to replicate that just with just a line here. Okay, so it's not way down here, it's not way up here. And if I wanted to, I can check the width. It's large enough to check the width on. And make that. All right, so we're developed the helmet, developed the shoulders coming down and around into this. I'm going to develop this shape right here. And I'm going to start with the top of the hand and the top of the gauntlet there. I'm actually not sure. I think this is technically the gauntlet. I don't know what that one is called. I need to learn more about medieval armor, apparently. Top of the hand, which is actually pretty much right across from that part here. So I'm going to actually make that line here too. And then I'm going to come down and I'm going to get where that wrist is here. And then I'm going to come up slightly to get this here. Okay, but now I need to find, so I know how the levels change. So now I need to find where they change across here. So let's start with that wrist, going from the edge of the notional space box on over. Look at that, I had that pretty well right there. So that's the point of the wrist here. So then this is going to be that hand angle here. And I'm going to double check my angles there. Looks good. Then this is going to slightly rise. I already checked that. And then this is going to be this right here. So let's find this line here from the notional space box edge over to here. And let's find the bottom. Use the T-square running across here. Doesn't quite come all the way to the envelope line, slightly shorter of it here. And then I can actually find this point exactly if I want to, or I can eye it because it's a super close one. And then coming up, I'm just going to try to make that angle I'm not going to try to get the curve. Okay, now I'm going to find this point here. One, and then I'm going to get it from top of the notional space box. Okay, slightly higher. Pretty good. Okay, so then this curves in from this point to this point, so I can just put that in because I've already got that point. Then I've got a little bit of negative space, a little bit of a triangle there, so I'm going to go ahead and map that in. And then this is going to come up to this point, but it's a gradual curve. So I'm going to need to double check that because this is looking a little bit short to me here. Which sometimes it's just, I guess sometimes it's just a matter of things aren't filled in yet and they look off, but that's why you double check and make sure that your points are accurate. And then if your points are accurate, then you just go, okay, I double checked. I can feel good about this. I'm just going to let it be. But I'm getting that top here. And I'm going to find the edge. Okay. Mapping in, mapping in. Now I'm going to find the bottom of the arm here. One of the problems with videoing and doing this is that in order to get your measurements accurate, you actually have to lean over top in order to see it, but then if I do that, then you can't see what I'm doing. Okay, so this is this edge of this, like the glove that's underneath. And this point right here is this point right here. But I noticed that it kind of curves up, so I'm going to go ahead and put in that curve just to kind of start it. And then it comes down a little bit here. I'm just going to go ahead and eye that at this point. It doesn't have to be perfection, but I can find that point. Anywhere there is a spot that is a clear point, you can find those, like you can measure for those. Curves, things like that, you sort of just have to eyeball and then make adjustments by looking back and forth and seeing sort of what they look like. So yeah, that's pretty good. And then I see that comes up, not quite all the way to here. Okay, clean up here. That's good. Double checking here, down underneath, still following this angle. Let's look at the width of this wrist here. That comes up just a little bit. Okay, this comes over, that hand. I'm not going to try to put any real detail into it. It's like, because it's armored, so it's kind of just like a club. But let's find where the end is from the notional space box. If you need like a measurement reminder, there is that video on how to measure, and those that was in the early ones. It is one of the things that just takes a little time to get used to. Okay, so already I feel like it's kind of starting to look a little bit Knight-like. So I'm going to go up this arm a little bit here. Coming across, that actually connects pretty well there, so I can use this dot. A lot of times you'll have areas where you can reuse the measurements you've already taken, and that's good. We want to do that because it makes things a little bit easier. Okay, I think I'm going to leave that part alone right now. Let's see where are we at time-wise. 15 minutes. Okay, actually I'm going to stop here. I want you to go ahead and give this a try and then see how it comes together, and then get to this point and go ahead and just send it in to me and I'll take a look. And then if you feel like you can go on your own for the next little bit, do so. If you feel like you start to go on and you get stuck again, let me know and I'll make another video.